Welcome to Stormwatch by GreyNoise Intelligence. Each week, we cover the latest info on what's happening at GreyNoise, Censys, VulnCheck, and Run Zero. Take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, toss out some expert opinions, and drop the occasional conspiracy theory. If you haven't noticed, it is cyber report season. So today, the crew will be basically Tuesday morning quarterbacking all the findings from Mandiant M trends, rising DBIR, FBI's annual IC3, basically all the reports. There's a lot of them. There's also been a ton of blogging by the crew and all their colleagues, I guess, in anticipation of RSA week. So we're going to be showcasing all those knowledge drops as well. And of course, we cover all the latest remaining from our altruistic administrators and hopefully get some kind of sit rep from RSA, even though Todd's only been there for about 2 minutes. Before we do our roundup of vibe checking, I just got to say, good job, Canada. Good job, Canada. All the Canuck cyber folk, we appreciate you. So Glenn, since you always still
wait, can you rewind? What did they do?
They voted
on
who's going to lead their country,
and that has to do with cyber.
It doesn't. It's just good that it's good that they did it. I'm just it's a celebration.
Be a duck.
It's a celebration. It's a celebration. It's a celebration. Anyway,
good job, Canada.
Good job, Canada. Good job.
I just needed a tiny bit of context for that. Just a little.
And we love the Canadian Cybersecurity Center. They're great people. They're really smart. They do really good work. Yeah.
We're just gonna play 5 seconds of random anthems at the beginning of every show.
There's everyone needs a hobby, I guess. Glenn, got vibe check for you. How's it going?
This is fine, dog. Not
okay.
Not you. Not calling you dog. This is fine, dog is my vibe right now.
The meme, like I said, I know I'm meme challenged, but I got the meme reference. I did.
No, I know, but the way I said it, it just sounded like I was like channeling Randy.
Being really
Randy
cool.
Jackson. Yeah. It's a no for me, dog. That's my vibe, actually.
But it's
pickleball day, so we're good.
Oh, it's right. It's.
Did you say pickleball day?
Signed up for another.
Yeah, he talked about it incessantly.
I'm obsessed.
Every other post Slack is pickleball. It's terrible. Did you get a new racket yet?
Yeah, I did. Move away from the wooden heavy one. Yes.
Okay. All right. Good.
It's good to have hobbies, Glenn.
It's sad that we even know that you had a wooden racket and have a new. It's sad. It's pickleball. I mean, anyway, whatever. I'm not going to tell you. It's been a minute. Vibe check. I hear you've been a world traveler. Has that impacted your vibes at all?
My vibes have been broadened. More global vibes here. I went to London 2 weeks ago. What is time? And got to bring my mom with me, which was really fun. And that was my first time there. So, and I'm a huge fan of rapid transit. So it was really fun to take all the trains and buses and then come back to New York City and wait 20 minutes for a train. But I tried a Scotch egg for the first time, which if people don't know is it's like a hard-boiled egg, kind of jammy inside, and then they wrap it in a layer of sausage, and then they wrap that in a layer of breadcrumbs, and it was so good. Glenn is not a hater, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
I say it's false advertising.
Not Scotch.
Yeah,
there's no Scotch in it.
It's like French fries, we do the same thing.
Very cool. Kimber?
Do you have bangers and mash or?
No. Glenn's got more questions.
It's good. Glenn. Well, Glenn likes to travel too, so I'm not surprised he has questions.
We can talk about British food for the rest of the show, as far as
we can. Yeah, it's great.
If we can put
I
up
did not-
RSA as long as possible, it'd be great.
We're not
I
talking
did-
about RSA. We're not talking about RSA today. We're talking about all the wonderful, cool reports that have come out before RSA. That's all we're doing.
I see some love for Scotch eggs in the chat. I did not have bangers and hash, but I did have like the other parts of like a proper English breakfast, which were really fun. But yeah, I'm glad that
The beans.
The beans. I know everyone hates on the beans.
That's what I was wondering.
No,
What else is left?
I think the beans are great. That's like the best part, in
do
my
like the beans.
opinion.
They're comforting. And also there's like that. Have you guys seen that baked bean Furby?
No.
Look up baked bean Furby for all you people at home. Baked bean Furby will change your opinions on baked beans, either for good or bad.
Oh.
Is this
This
something
is
worth putting up
important.
now? Is this something worth putting up now? Because I can get it up.
I think it's better as a choose your own adventure.
Content warning.
Content
Furby.
warning.
I won't do it then. That's cool. I'll trust you guys on that one. Kimber, vibe check. How's it going?
The vibes are good. I will say for anyone who happens to be listening, this is my Andrew Morris style yeeting new features into the internetosphere, but we released our VulnCheck push notifications, which is you can now sign up to be alerted when we add new things to the VulnCheck Kev on our website.
That's cool.
There is a little sign
That's
up
handy and
mechanism
cool.
under settings. It's super handy. And it's been really exciting to push a feature out because haven't done that in a second. Like a fancy feature, you know, we've been putting new stuff in the product. It's like very technical stuff and very like data oriented type stuff. So that is cool. But it's fun to just have a little like, oh, you can sign up for this email and you get alerted when we add things to Kev. It's just like very straightforward. And
Quality
I
of
can turn
life
off all my
improvements are
alerts.
huge.
yeah, so it's not like press released yet, but it's just kind of like if you stumble upon it, if me or Patrick tells you to test it out, it's basically in it's in
Breaking news on Stormwatch, guys. Breaking news on Stormwatch.
Yes.
This is great. This is awesome.
Stealth
You heard it
launch.
here first.
there. Stealth launch. Vibes are good.
Cool. Todd, you're at RSA and so is Overwatch at a very early time of day. How's your vibe going right now?
So yes, I am now writing for moving Stormwatch a couple hours because I am now noticing how impossibly early it is for Silicon Valley people. They will never join this live stream. You know, it's fine. It's 7:30 here, but I've been in San Francisco since Thursday night, I think. I don't know. Time, as Hima just said, time has no meaning. But I was at B-Sides. I am headed over to RSA today. I have my fancy Expo badge that is $99 because
You better get $99 worth of value out of
I
that.
am going to get 99 because I like going to the booths. I like going to the booths and finding engineers to talk to. I think I talked about this last week, but
And
that's
taking pictures of the GreyNoise booth, since
I will take pictures of
our own
GreyNoise booth.
GreyNoise fam
On
hasn't
my
taken
phone.
pictures, so we could see them Overwatch.
I will
anyway.
see Overwatch probably in person a few times today, but yeah, vibes are good. I always love coming to San Francisco. I had my formative years out here in the Bay Area, so it's always a nice excuse to see high school friends, which I intend to do, and of course all my hacker fam at B-Sides. It was lovely.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Overwatch, how's it going? Vibe check. So tired, RSA. Come by the booth. Booth 51. I was hoping you told me the number. 5148 in North Hall, and take pictures since no one's sending me pictures of the booth.
I shall.
I feel sad.
The one thing I'll say about RSA is the amount of just vendor hall that exists is such an overwhelming and wild experience. So, thoughts and prayers.
A couple years ago, I heard someone opine for a virtual industry that takes up no space. Boy, there's sure a lot of real estate being used at RSA.
You think that Expo Hall is bigger at RSA or Black Hat?
Oh, it's
RSA, 100%.
Yeah.
Dude,
Really?
RSA.
RSA is like two Black Hats.
I
Oh,
will
yeah,
also
huge
say
fan.
RSA is the spiciest conference because I have never been hit on more in my life than at that conference.
Mhm.
It is very weird. The vibes are so weird at RSA. But
There are a lot of desperate loser CISOs at RSA. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not a
I am-
CISO.
I'm not saying it, but I will say RSA weird.
I always thought RSA was huge until Corey, our product guy, showed us he went to somewhere in Dallas, Glenn. Like I point to you like it's Texas, like you know everything about Texas, but some big place, big stadium in a covered stadium in Texas, and it puts RSA to shame. Like the robotics competition that his son was in was there. It's huge. I could not believe how big it is. It was huge. So our RSA pales in comparison to that particular place.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
This is true. This is true. I will do a vibe check. My vibe check is great because I got my No Caesars t-shirt from Blue Sky today, although I'm not on Blue Sky anymore for reasons. So, but I'll take the shirt. It's great. Cool. So let's dig into this because people want to hear all your thoughts on all the reports. We has a podcast, as everybody knows. It'll make Overwatch's day. If you visit the booth, if you're at RSA, and also subscribe so you can learn all the cool things that are happening here. And I got to really zoom in on this one. Jordan picked a fun one. I like this one. You find a USB drive on the ground at RSAC, specifically RSAC. What do you do? The choices were plug into your laptop, plug into a burner laptop, give it to security, or nope, not today, Satan. And so I think this is Twitter, and it was pretty even between everything but give it to security, which was interesting. I think this is no, that was Blue Sky. This is Twitter. It was even between Satan and Burner, and although Tom Seller is awesome, Tom sneak into laptop bag belonging to that. And then I guess on Mastodon, it's nope, not today. Satan wins hands down. Any surprises, folks?
I really appreciate that edit of the sneaking it into someone's bag. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, not even once. I mean, at best, I find a USB key on the ground at RSA. I am now part of someone's experiment, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's why it's there. It has to be, right? So
I think it would be a brilliant marketing campaign at this point. Just saying.
Sure.
What if it fell from a drone, or was a crashed drone? Would you plug that in?
A crashed drone?
Yeah.
Oh, like the Ukraine thing,
No.
right?
Yeah.
No, crashed drone has terrible vibes. I'm not going near that.
I'm
No, I mean,
surprised
you don't
nobody
even need
was
it.
like.
Go ahead.
I'm surprised nobody was like, "I'll take this and then destroy it," because it's kind of fun to. I don't know. I like smashing technology.
Harder than it looks too, or
Yeah.
technology's tougher than it looks. Like if you're trying to actually destroy it. Also, wear goggles. You
Good
will literally
Good
lose.
advice.
an
Look
eye.
at that. This is great advice on Stormwatch today. This is a good one. It's now the
Safety is
safety
sexy.
podcast. Yeah. So like this is kind of like it's report roulette for you folks. Which one do y'all want to cover first? We don't have an order or anything. We can pick any of them. We shouldn't talk too much about the GreyNoise one because we're doing yet another webinar on it. But we
Okay.
can. We can definitely talk about it. I just don't want to bore people with the webinar and a lot of talk here about it. That's all.
I'd probably
GreyNoise
start
is
with
one
the.
of the two that I read for homework. I
Oh,
glanced at the M-Trends one. I glanced at the FBI one. GreyNoise one is one I actually read. That and DBIR. Those are the only two I have any comments on. So
I was going to say we start with the FBI one just because it was the weakest.
let's do it. I haven't read it.
It'd be
Tell
the
me about
shortest.
Boom.
When I say
All right,
weakest, I don't mean that offensively. I just mean like it was just kind of a shrug.
Yeah, so for folks that don't know, the FBI does release their internet crime report every year. It is one of the reports I usually look forward to every year. Not for like the graphics content in it, as you'll see as I like fly by the graphics, but It's just nice to look at the trends year over year, and at least up until last year, they did a fair job doing the data collection from their IC3 internet crime reports that they get in there. I don't know what's going to happen this year with the data or whatever, but it is there. The one thing I didn't realize, it's the 25th year of the IC3 centers. Like they were there the same. They were incepted the same year as CVE. Thought, look at that. Coincidence? Coincidence?
Incepted. Is that a word?
I don't know. I can make up words. I can make up anything. Words are a construct. They're a social construct. You can make up words, Glenn. Like
We're
there's no
all
book
free
of just
agents?
words. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's weird.
The losses though, 16 billion in
Yeah.
losses. The IC3 report. That's the huge one. Ignore the colors and everything here.
You said like
people. I'll zoom in.
33% year over year.
Yeah, I'll just. Oops, I made the wrong thing. Zoom. Make this.
Can
zoom.
you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this one is the killer right here. It's just been getting so great jobs. Great job, cyber defenders. We're really making a difference. We're really making a difference out there as the crimes get better, and the victims become greater as well. I also don't get, this is one of those charts. I'm like, who, what, why? But
Looks like a logo.
They couldn't
That's
decide.
exactly, I was going to say, like a rock climbing gym.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
gym logo or rock climbing gym logo. Exactly.
I mean, it's the FBI, right? So there were several meetings about this, about should we go with a bar chart or should we go with like an area chart? And I'm sure there were two factions and they were just at each other's throats. And then they're like, well, we're going to do both. We're going to do both.
This report's always been, for me anyway, like one of those where it's good because it's been around so long for trending and to see changes. But I don't think you can really latch on to the specifics, meaning because it's through the IC3, like there's a big lag or a big drop off in reporting. Like people aren't always running to the FBI or reporting things to the Internet Crime Center. So the sample size, I guess, is what I'm saying, is going to be a lot smaller than a lot of the industry reports, just because of who they are and the connotations around that. But it
This
is
is-
good for tracking trending and changes.
This is one of the things that I was wondering about when I was reading it. Was I don't feel like it's actually geared very much towards enterprise, especially like looking at the
Right.
complaints by age group. It looks like it's very internet crime as a whole, because we're often looking at cybercrime from a very like enterprise lens. And especially if you look at that age graph,
yeah, I'll go
it's
back
like
to it.
all 60-year-olds, like 60
Yeah.
plus. It made me a little
Yeah.
sad. Like they have so like seniors often have retirement funds and things like that. So brain's not all there. Very easily exploitable because group of people. So that's what I was thinking when I was reading through this. I was like, oh, we can't view this necessarily through the lens of like we're protecting an industry. It's like literally crime against just normal humans.
That's a good way of putting it.
the-
This is kind of like the personal impact of it or something.
Well, to a degree, because business email compromise is legit, like business email compromise, but it covers like the tiniest of business to the largest of business as well too. So it isn't like enterprise security like you were suggesting, Camber, but it's still bad. Like that's 2 billion of loss to business email compromise. That's getting and I guess just to explain it for folks that might not know what that is, like that's when you toss an email and make it look like you should cut a check or something like that to somebody, basically using that to get funds from the company, and it works still way too well for whatever reason. Like
I mean, historically, FBI has said, right, for years, and it looks like here it's the same thing. Like business email compromise is the #1 enterprise crime that happens today on the, like, that is internet assisted. And like you say, it's just like, I'm gonna send you an invoice and hope you pay it, and it pays enough to make it worthwhile. And it's really, it is, I'm with you, Bob, that it's really depressing that our industry still does not deal with this problem in any meaningful way. We spend a lot of time talking about vulnerabilities and exploits and shiny O-Day, and we beat up on, you know, security vendors for putting insecure things on our network. But this is the thing. This is the thing that matters.
The other thing too is like I'm still amazed that people have cryptocurrency. I get the whole crypto thing, and I get like what some of the original,
You
in
do?
theory, good
Can you
reasons
explain
for
it
it
to
are.
us?
Sure, not right now, but 9 billion in losses for cryptocurrency, that's insane.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. This is just Omar ripping off gangsters from like no real people were harmed in the cryptocurrency. That's
There,
not true.
there's
There are some real people, but
yeah, not only are there real people, but there's actually like a whole bunch of people specifically in that scene who are starting to research cybersecurity. And there's a branch of like people who are pissed off that they get scammed like effectively because they're people who put a lot of money into like these various crypto things. And the cybersecurity people think that cryptocurrency is crap, so they don't investigate it. So now there's a whole research arm of cryptocurrency scam investigators that aren't quite cybersecurity, but they're learning to be cybersecurity. And like cybersecurity people who are realizing that some of this is very relevant, like with the North Korea investigations. North Korea is scamming on that crypto pretty hard.
yeah, I mean, I would say like the big losses really are like the exchanges and the grifters who are losing the money. There is I'm positive there is a wide and shallow pool of small multi-$1,000 losses from your age 60 plus demo, right? Who thought that this was a good way to hedge and a good way to diversify. And if you have a parent who is interested in crypto, dissuade them.
Yeah, if at all possible. We're not going to talk about this chart, except like if anyone that don't mimic the charts in this report like ever, especially like this is another one of those could not make up mine, so let's do both at the same thing. And it's and what I usually end up doing every
Now I
year
know
is I
who
usually
designs all of those HMIs for ICS devices, because these are very similar in style.
they actually called out critical infrastructure in a bigger way than they have before this year, so that was a little interesting as well too. And I'm really kind of glad the FBI gets involved with some of those investigations, and it isn't just like swept under the rug or whatever. I don't know if they have to or not. I don't know if that's a requirement or whatever. But you know, they kind of do show that a whole bunch of things are hit, and it's across kind of all of the different industries as well. So that's not great either, that we're seeing an elevation in that. And as someone who used to just downplay some of the critical infrastructure, like, oh my gosh, talk that people did for a bunch of years, it sounds like it actually is getting really worse now than it ever has before. We probably ought to have some crit infra, like Dragos or something, on to talk about that someday, Glenn. I say Glenn because we share a channel with them, so we can actually ask them pretty quickly to come do
Yeah,
that.
totally.
Anything else in here that caught anyone's eye that had a chance to read through it? Because like those are some of the big. I just wanted to cover like the volume of losses and how like we're still failing everybody pretty badly.
I think the only other thing that kind of comes to mind is with I don't actually consider 60 Elder, but I don't know what the rules are. But it's broken down into Elder on the report, and the just the amount of fraud for that demographic, from romance schemes to pig butchering schemes to just people not understanding and falling for things. I don't know what we're supposed to do with our grandparents anymore. Like
And it's not
put
just them, right? Like we talked
but
about what, like 5 or 6 weeks ago, about how who was it? It was Cory Doctorow, I think. No, it wasn't Cory Doctorow. There was some other security mucky muck who just got owned.
Not Troy Hunt.
Troy Hunt,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Have I Been Pwned got
notable
pwned.
under
Yeah,
60. Troy Hunt.
yeah, that wasn't romance game, or
What
what was
not a
the
romance game, but what I'm saying
okay.
is that like not everybody not everybody who
Yeah,
falls
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
scams
Mhm.
are, you know, your father-in-law, you know.
I just can't imagine trying to explain crypto and AI to my they just don't. Just put a signal blocker around her house and get her a newspaper.
My dad knows. He's like, he was telling me early on that the AI voice changing scams, he called me up one day and he said that some AI robot had called him with my voice. And I was like, oh my
Oh,
God, we're living in
really?
a sci-fi horror movie. I thought he was insane at the time because this was like years ago. And then it was a thing.
Like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Something I've done with my family is we have a code word. That way, if you know, if the voice sounds right, like there's a word that you know you need to say. If I'm really kidnapped, like you don't say this word, you're not gonna get your ransom. So,
And that word is
Yeah.
but
yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I think the last thing I wanted to weigh in here on was yeah, the business email compromise thing was really depressing to me. And I've been talking to a bunch of people about the way that their organizations approach internal training around it, right? Because it feels like that's the one thing where it's like people pour so many resources into all these like anti-phishing toolkits and like awareness training, and it seems like it's moot, or maybe not moot, but it's like easily like you only really need one thing to slip through the cracks. And not to bring up AI, but I have seen more and more people kind of turning towards using like AI phishing simulations and security trainings where it literally like will learn based on like it has like tailored tests for different employees based on, you know, how, and they like get increasingly more complex. So I'm interested to see where that goes, or if that's the only way, because we've got it. That's like the one area where I really want to see some new ideas.
do you mean like the security awareness trainings customized based on their risky actions or risky things they've done that's been monitored?
Based on their actions, based on their role in the organization, based on like previous phishing simulations, like if they have been evading more, if they've been like showing better aptitude for avoiding those, then they get more and more realistic. Kind of like meeting the employee at what level they are, and then like
Okay.
yeah.
Just to riff on that for a second, the anti whatever training for this particular thing for BEC is I've had this discussion with the security awareness community for 2+ decades now. It really hurts saying those things like 2+ decades, guys. Anyway, and what it like all the training in the world isn't going to actually fix it. The organizations that tend to fall victim to that have what this isn't the technical term for it. I just the colloquialism I use. It's bully culture. Like it's bully and hurried and last minute, and it's just a terrible company culture that they're used to being berated and told to do things last minute, and like whoever the exec is that you're using the name of in the BEC scam is a terrible person usually, and like they make these horrible demands, and you're not going to fix that with a security awareness training. You have to actually break the culture and rebuild the culture to make that work. And it's not great. It's not great that it's getting just worse, which means the business culture is getting kind of worse too. And this is just US too. FBI C3 is just us. So.
Just don't
Kimber, I was
check your email anymore. Sorry, what?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Why email? What is that? Kimber, I was hoping you could give us some highlights from the VulnCheck since everybody publishes it, you're one of the few that just makes it nice available on the web. So if you could walk us through.
Just straightforward. This was our exploitation trends for Q1 of 2025. So, taking a deep dive look into the known exploited vulnerabilities from our point of view. I think the one thing that really caught my eye about this research that Patrick delved into, 28.3% of the KEVs had exploitation evidence disclosed in less than a day of the CVE being published. So I think we get a lot of questions about like how long does it take for things to be exploited once they're out in the wild, to really understand the urgency, I guess, behind patching things, or just how many vulnerabilities. To me, in vulnerability management, there's always been this question of like how many of these are actually getting exploited, like are all of them getting exploited? So that's pretty significant in my opinion. That's almost, it's getting close to a third getting exploited in less than a day. But I do think this is very dependent upon just the type of vulnerability that they are. Like, are they in external facing devices versus like, I don't know, some thing that will never be on the internet, like a very deep Linux kernel vulnerability, potentially something like that. What else? We're always looking at who's reporting exploitation. There's so many first sources out there now. And I think that we'll kind of always be adding more people giving that proof of exploitation. What I would love to see more from each of these companies in this list is, I want receipts. I want the packets of how they're exploiting them, or I want like, what does it look like over the wire? Because we're still having that problem of like, you're saying this is exploited, but we don't really understand how. Like, it's just a simple like true false, when it should be more nuanced than that, in my opinion. And then going down to this graph, I expected deferred to be much bigger given the number, but you know, that little 3.1 really is quite tiny in comparison to the awaiting analysis at 25.2 from the NVD statuses. So I think there was a lot of like, when the deferred status was announced, but really, like, when we take a look at what's undergoing analysis versus awaiting analysis, that's a 0.6 versus a 25.2. So hopefully that deferred status is actually helping something rather than just, I don't know, putting it off.
I do
So
think it's interesting that a quarter of the CVEs are still awaiting analysis, but they're already, going through the motions and doing their exploitation
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, the cat's out of the bag at that point. I don't know how much.
Mhm.
right.
It's, on the one hand, I don't know how much value you're going to get out of an NVD analysis when that's already being exploited, which usually means there's evidence around and there's POCs and there's like everybody knows. But on the other hand, it's a little bit of a bummer that the National Vulnerability Database is apparently unable to keep up with the KEV at this point, even as minimum stakes.
Yeah.
And I just
There's no
want everyone
vulnerabilities
to
out there.
realize that this is VulnCheck Kev.
VulnCheck
This is
Kev,
your
yeah.
extended Kev plus.
Yeah. We give you the links to where we found the things.
Well, you have more in there too, though. Like it isn't
We
just a
do.
replay. This is Kev. You do have more. That's why we used it for our report.
It's a superset that also
yeah.
includes SysACAV, I think, right? It's
Yeah,
rare
it does. Yeah, it does.
SysACAV is not on the KEV, on the
Right.
full.
I'm going to put on my Todd hat and remind everyone that the KEV has a very focused lane, and
Thank
so
you for
therefore
that.
it's not KEV is not the end all be all list. It has a focus. It has requirements.
Very
And
focused.
it's not dead. They had 3 Kevs yesterday, so I was worried for a minute there.
I took an 11-day break.
Yeah.
Fine.
Wow.
They were getting ready for RSA. No, they weren't.
The last little point on here, that basically it's a graph of CVSS versus EPSS, because we have to look at scoring, obviously, and do scoring systems provide any kind of value. The longer I work at VulnCheck, the more I'm suspicious of these scoring algorithms. But it really suggests that EPSS is a trailing indicator rather than a predictive tool, which is kind of counterintuitive to the goal of EPSS.
But there's a P.
You know, the P stands for predictive, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, only a handful of vulnerabilities had elevated EPSS scores on the same day as the exploitation disclosure. So these things are exploited, but not all of them have the elevated score that would alert you to take a look at it. So
that's that. I think you answered the question. So my question was going to be, did Patrick pull the EPSS score on the day of exploitation? So there's a different EPS, because the EPSS changes every day. So he pulled it for every single. Wow, good job, Patrick. Awesome, that's awesome.
Yeah, he took a look, and we used the scores on the day the evidence became publicly available. So
that's brilliant.
It's I think that's a very hard thing to implement as a security team, of like having to look at this score in a moment in time, and you have to look at it at the ideal moment to understand what the score is trying to communicate to you. And that's very frustrating for me as a person who's trying to provide data that will help people. It's just like, I can't tell you how to use this in the best way possible, because you have to have your eye on so many things and use it in conjunction. Like, you have to point in time pull the EPSS whenever like some new evidence is added, or some, I don't know. Anyways, I could rant about that for a while, but I won't.
Kimber, I have so much more to say on this very topic, and I will be saying all of it in 2 weeks when I publish a paper that compares CVSS,
Good.
CVC, and gut checks. In 2 weeks, stay tuned.
Yeah, I'll be very excited to read that paper, and I'll probably just be going, yes, yes.
You know what? I'll send you and you alone, Kimber. Don't tell Patrick.
I won't.
I'll send you a pre-release. The term I was going for that has been shot down is vulnerability harospasy, which is the art of scrying the future from the livers of sacrificial animals. And so, because I want to pull like a signal from the guts of the scores.
I want,
We're not using that. Like, it's the name of my talk at North
What if you're vegan?
What's that?
What if you're vegan?
You're not eating them.
You're not. Yeah,
No.
it's fine.
You're just.
It's ritual.
It's like. Yeah, it's ritual. It's
PETA might like to have a
ritual.
word. I don't know.
They don't eat their boots. They don't eat their coats. So
No, you must sacrifice a Cisco router in order to receive your vulnerability score. So you just arrange the internals of a sacred networking device.
Serial ports on the back of the Cisco switches.
It was. I was reminded that no one knows what harospasy is.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a very
it's very niche.
But yeah, so yeah, I have loads more to say. But you're on the right track, at least according to the very basic data analysis I've done lately. So
yep. So in summation, our report just says, hey, yeah, things do be still getting exploited, and we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna dive into the GreyNoise report today, but there is like each of these reports, I think, except the FBI one, but that's because it's a different focus. Something that was in our report is the focus on edge devices, and that comes up in all the other reports, including the VulnCheck one.
Yep.
There was just not a surprise to anyone that's had their ear to the ground, but the edge devices are just top priority, and it works, and that's why they're top priority. And they're also the devices that are supposed to keep people out, but they let people in. So we're just living in bizarre world.
Yeah, just since we have mentioned it a couple of times, and Todd did read it, so I want to give Todd a chance to tell me how horrible it is. How horrible it is. This is ours. I will just briefly state that the goal of ours was to take a different look at the vulnerability exploitation, because there's stuff, and I'll just go to the heat map real quick. There's stuff that just happens all the time, and this. So just reiterate, we used the VulnCheck, Kev, because it's more comprehensive. It have more CVEs for us to focus on. And I mean, I can count on the fact that there will be a VulnCheck Kev next year and next month or whatever. And I can't necessarily count on that from a certain other place. So I wanted to be
Focus.
able to use that. I'm focused. I'm focused. I wanted to give the rationale for it. That's all I'm giving his rationale.
The one thing that I want to focus on from this report, since we're like lightly talking about it, the waterfall graphs, Ratatouille, love them because it like if you know anything about signals, this explains the behavior of the internet so well that some things are just out there blasting and some things have a frequency. If you've ever been lucky enough to get the internet is a living, breathing, sentient being rant, then this graph is what I would like to communicate.
Yeah, and we made up 4 categories based upon there's science, there's maths behind the categories. But there's and like to Kimber's point, there's the ones we called eternal because they're never not being hit, which was and like this particular CVE that popped up because we had tagged for it like at the beginning of the year. It's fired across like it would have been at the top of the list. I forget which one this is off my head because we didn't focus on eternal. But we broke the resurgent vulnerabilities, like things that are going to come back to bite you, into a couple of different categories. Utility get used a lot, but not at the same time, at the same frequency and rate that the eternal ones are. And what was to me the interesting ones is like I called them zombie. We came to a thing because Black Swan's cooler, so we use that instead. But these are the ones where these are gonna bite you. Like they don't hit all the time. They pop up every so often, and usually when they hit, it's not great. And just to riff off of what Glenn was saying, I don't want to go through the whole report, but because I also want to give Todd a chance to say, yeah, we also broke down like the technology type by where they fit into the chart. And like Edge is in the periodic and the Black Swan categories, like that's the Edge stuff. That's the stuff that bites everybody all the time, or that Mariah is using to build itself back all the time as well too. But I will shut up and let Todd tell me how horrible the report is.
The report was lovely, Bob. Good job. Good job, Glenn. Good job, Bob. Good job, everybody at GreyNoise.
Noah, good job, Noah. Good job, Noah. It's also
Noah.
Noah.
Good job, Noah. No, it was a really interesting read on it. Like I think that in InfoSec and when you're talking with other cybersecurity professionals, right? Like always focused on like what's news today, right? Like what's the new vuln today? And this, like, I think this report does a good job of reminding people that like unpatched systems are sometimes unpatched forever. It's a little bit of a mystery why like there's still, to me, and maybe you can explain it, but these resurgent vulnerabilities from 10 years ago, like these things weren't owned back then, but they are getting owned now. And I suspect some of this is that they were getting owned, but like in very, because we know that like intelligence organizations prefer the like kind of O-Day-ish and End-Day exploits, like maybe they're getting like very surgically popped, and then they decide like, well, let's put it out on the internet. I'm going to sell it to, you know, my Russian crime organization, or I'm going to start using this to like, or I found out how I can use this particular vulnerability to install crypto miners to fund my nuclear program, right? Like I'm curious if that's the reason why you see this, where like you see like very low level, can't really notice it because it's not getting blasted all over the internet, and then it switches over to now you've got nothing but leads.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the organized crime and or nation state angle is probably a decent one, and we always harken back to the Sophos report from November of last year. And if people still haven't read that report, you should go back and find that one because they did such a great job documenting their 5-year investigation with all of the different edge devices and all the old CVEs that were part of compromising all these organizations and just causing a lot of havoc and damage and pain for a lot of folks out there. And that was a really sophisticated attack. So that's why I think your angle on that one probably suggests that's what it is.
Yeah. But it was a great way to look at it. And I like the reminder of like, you know, you can't just patch today's vulns, you have to patch last decade's vulns as well, which is a weird thing to have to say, but okay. You know.
I did a talk on vintage vulnerabilities. God, was it? It must have been 2 years ago now. Was it that long ago? Anyways, point being, vintage vulnerabilities that we still see out there. And I ran into like a Cold Fusion server, just like sitting out there on the internet, tried to like get in contact with the guy and everything, and just be like, why is this still up?
It could
More like
be-
how at that point, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm wondering. And then the other thing is, especially with these like super, super old, like 2007 vulnerabilities, I think it could be interesting. Because a lot of this is automated, right? Like these brute forcing, toolkits that just have like a laundry list. Okay, these are the things like Fortinet and Ivanti that you can like package together and just try all of them. It could be interesting for those to see if the kind of like the periodic nature of the attempts lines up with like the economy or like
interesting.
recessions or just like downturns in specific countries could be interesting. Obviously financially motivated is not the only one, but that for those are for like the not so like periodic ones, but then for the ones where it's like they hit every, I don't know, 6 months or so, I wonder, is that like to avoid detection? Like what's going on there?
One of the things that I like actually found from doing that talk on vintage vulnerabilities was that there's like a certain pattern. If somebody runs basically all of Metasploit or all of nuclei, like there's a certain pattern to that. So if you're really wanting to research it, you have to drop the pattern of a script kiddie getting a hold of Metasploit for the first time and scanning the entire internet with it. So
We've also learned that there's, and we're kind of, Bob is helping. Well, Bob does all of the data stuff, but basically, when there's like from all these reports, what it also does is that anytime a vendor publishes a big report, it reintroduces interest in vulns that people forgot about. So we're kind of secretly, well, it's not secret now, monitoring the CVEs and stuff that are mentioned in these reports
Oh,
of
yeah.
late, and just kind of watch that going forward. And maybe there'll be a talk on that or something later in the year, or a paper or blog or something. But we do know, like we've already seen it with the DBIR last week, a little bit of a from the vulns that were mentioned in the DBIR directly. So that's
I
another part of
definitely
it.
did that. Like,
Yeah.
back in my last job, I would just
Yeah.
grunt through for every CVE mentioned, and then cross it against my like backlog list of like, hey, did we ever actually see exploitation on this? Let's go double check. So
So like one thing that we're saying here across all of these reports are, so we're telling defenders, hey, per the VulnCheck Kev, a third of vulns were exploited like within 24 hours, something like that, 25, 28, 30, whatever percent. But then also in the GreyNoise report, we have like 40% of the vulns are more than 4 years old. 2/3 of the vulns are like less than a year old. So basically, like, what are defenders supposed to do? How are you supposed to prioritize when it's basically all of it? Which is the $10 trillion question, I know. But
the never-ending cycle of all of it.
when data is important, asset inventory is important, knowing what's on your edge is important.
shall we talk about secure by design and pushing left and all that?
Yeah, we
Maybe
don't
ship
just say
so
these
many
things because they're
bugs.
buzzwords. Like you have to like this is your only hope, right? Like this is it.
Hey, actually, in that
Unless
light though, give Ivanti some props. It only took them 25 years to enable stack canaries. 25 years. The last CV that just got like the patch for it was, oh yeah, we compiled it with stack canaries. Like, so there you go. One shift left. One
Hey,
shift.
good job.
One. We got one. All right. We are running out of time. Do we want to just cover blogs, or do we want to, because
I have
Censys,
nothing to
y'all.
say about DBIR. We don't have to bring it
All
up
right.
or anything.
All right, good.
But like DBIR, mTrends, and then Google's thing, right? They all seem to settle on this headline early on of like, hey, exploit use has grown. It's reached 20%, 22%, 24%, depending on who you're, but it's like in that neighborhood, right? And it's funny to me that like not one of these reports said only 20% of initial access vectors was exploited vulnerabilities. They're all framing it as like, oh wow, it's really big, it's getting year over year. Oh, look at that, it passed phishing for the first time in I think the DBIR. DBIR was great, the jokes were wonderful, I love all the footnote jokes, that is my love language. But it was like, I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, well, when are you going to talk about like why vulnerabilities aren't your only thing to deal with, like errors, misconfigurations, clicking on a thing you shouldn't click on, business email compromise, right? Like that kind of stuff. All of this is outside the realm of CVE and EPSS and CVSS and known vulnerabilities. Like it's all not that. So like, maybe as an industry, we can spend a little more time dealing with all of the other things that aren't just code bugs, that aren't just stack canaries, that aren't just like buffer overflows, right? So anyway, that's the only thing I really wanted to throw out there about report season.
And the DBR mentioned like a 32-day median patch time. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, great.
I feel like when I started in this industry, like 30 days would be amazing. Like you'd be safe, right? Like I remember we had quarterly.
Hey, and against your 10-year vulns, hey, that's pretty great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we're talking, good luck.
And I think MTrends, was it MTrends that said like, dwell time popped up for the first time in a while? It went
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
12
For
or
the
something.
first time in a while. Yeah, it went up, which is okay. I'm glad you brought that up.
You have initial
we're almost up.
compromise, and then nothing happens for, well, not nothing, like lots of things happen.
It was 11 days, right? Now
a week and a half later.
Yeah, that's actually maybe the most of all of the stuff that I read for these reports. That nugget, the increase in dwell time to 11 days, is actually the thing that stood out the most as the most alarming for me.
Well,
don't be
wasn't
don't
the
be
reports saying that they discovered them in 1 week or less increased? So doesn't that technically mean dwell time is down if the detection of it increased?
They measure it from, in MTrends anyway. I think it was MTrends. They measure it from initial compromise to pulling the trigger on ransomware. Probably, and it has to be in the ones that they didn't notice or like evict before pulling the trigger. It had to be that.
Oh, so the sentence says comparing 2023 to 2024, the percentage of investigations that were discovered in 1 week or less increased from 43.3% to 45.1%.
Yes.
So it's towards shorter dwell times. So they discovered it in 1 week or less, shorter dwell time.
Maybe both, right? Maybe
Okay.
like detection got better, and also when they didn't detect, the dwell time is longer.
Okay, so it's the average dwell time that we're talking.
Yeah.
So it's an internal, external, but either way, that's the worst trend that we could start right now as an industry, is to start increasing dwell time.
Don't worry.
Right.
I read all of the press releases from all of the edge vendors, and they all solved this problem. You could just go to the booth. Todd's going to go to the booth and find out how they all solved the problem.
Yeah.
Great. Himija, you guys must be drinking, like, I know you don't do coffee anymore now, but like the rest of your team must be drinking lots and lots of coffee because you got lots of blog posts. Is there any one that stands out that you'd like to feature?
All of them are pretty based, but let's talk about the Salt Typhoon one on the right. Because we are in a salty ocean. Yeah, so I'm sure we've talked about this on the pod before. We've talked about it outside of the pod, I think all of us individually. The news and the kind of like the media reporting around Salt Typhoon, the threat group, has been particularly frustrating for defenders, I think, because not just is there such a lack of like concrete IOCs and actually indicators about how to track this threat, but also there's so much misinformation about it, and so much like kind of clickbait type of reporting where it's like, hey, we heard from this other news source that this might potentially be an indicator, so we are going to treat it like one. And that kind of just feels like a wild rabbit chase. And our data, is unique in that, you know, we can't see like people logging into servers. We can't see exploit behavior, but what we can see is we can scan the entire internet. And so what we did was we kind of took a list of edge devices, of network devices that kind of have more stronger evidence of being linked to being targeted by Cell Typhoon. Obviously not 100%, but they were Sophos firewalls, Ivanti devices, Cisco devices, things like that. And then we looked at kind of these 6-month trends and how many of these things were sitting on the internet, going back to when the Cell Typhoon campaign was first publicly disclosed back in last October. And we were interested to see, are people taking these things offline? Are they changing? Are they stagnant? What is happening with them? And overall, the story was pretty different for each particular device. We saw the biggest reduction in Sophos firewalls, and we saw some spikes in kind of Cisco devices and Ivanti devices that correlated with when like new vulnerabilities in those devices were disclosed, which makes sense. And overall, we've seen maybe like a quarter reduction in all of these devices combined, but overall, we're not seeing a huge change in the attack surface of these things, which is concerning because kind of per Todd's comment about the DBIR's excessive focus on vulnerabilities, I think we're approaching a post vulnerability world, right? Because not all these devices that we tracked were vulnerable, but they didn't really need to be, because there were some sources that are observing that, you know, in a lot of cases, Cell Typhoon is literally just logging in to Cisco devices with valid stolen credentials, or maintaining persistence in like Ivanti devices even after they're patched and stuff like that. So I no longer think that patching is the end all be all. I think especially with network devices and network device admin pages, we need to start thinking about how do we make sure these things are accessible to the right people, which I know is not an easy problem. But I encourage people to read this whole data. We'll probably have some follow-up reporting. I might turn this into like a live dashboard. But I hope that they are going to go down, because it's just unnecessary, I think, for them to be sitting out there. Mic drop.
Yeah, really.
It's
I would like to offer you an RSA keynote slot to talk
Yeah.
about the post vulnerability world. That was the most RSE thing
oh wow, yeah.
all day.
I'll make t-shirts.
I mean, how much of Cell Typhoon? Well, I mean, there's a lot we don't know, right? That's why there's a $1 million reward, but how much of Cell Typhoon is just not maybe misconfiguration, but poor configuration or non-recommended configuration being accessible? Like, so much of this is, that's why this thing has been such a gnarly beast.
Todd, do you have anything?
Yeah, and I think.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. Let's go ahead. Answer.
I think the last thing I was gonna say is like, yeah, Cell Typhoon is big, and they're targeting, you know, certain sectors, and I think a lot of folks are maybe focusing on that part of the reporting, but it's not just them exploiting these things, right? That's what all these reports have showed. So I think that actually the findings from that blog can be applied to all of these reports that we're talking about network and edge device exploitation.
Anything at Run Zero, Todd, we should focus on?
I mean, the huge. We got a couple vulnerabilities in there. Nothing really, you know, super awesome to talk about or argue with my own blogging team. But yeah, yeah, this is just kind of normal marketing stuff. I will be at RSA. I'll be around the GreyNoise booth and points beyond. You can find me usually by looking for the 7-foot-tall abominable snowman that I will be hanging out with, who is definitely on site. I did want to say that we like the act. First off, cover your kids' ears, everybody who believes Zeddy the Yeti is real. The actor who is in the suit is a consummate professional. They have a Disney pedigree. They used to be, yeah. yeah, they're pretty good. They know how to operate the suit pretty well. They're very emotive, and it just like it is so much better than just having like a marketing person in there, having like a real, furry actor essentially in the suit. So check it out. We'll be around Moscone. That's all.
Is that in
Thanks.
lieu of having a booth?
It's not in lieu of. I think like we didn't get a booth for a couple reasons. But yeah, we will definitely be around and be present.
That's wonderful.
That's actually a really
awesome.
brilliant guerrilla marketing or Yeti marketing.
Yeti marketing.
Yes, it is a snowman marketing.
And you're not talking. Yeah, I was
my-
gonna say you're talking about the creature, not the cups.
I am talking
Oh,
about the creature. I am talking about the creature. Though at RSA we did run a raffle where people could win Yeti junk stuff, not junk. They're quality products.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. But that's
All
it.
right.
Fantastic.
That's it. My take a selfie with Patrick challenge is still issued
Oh, no problem.
to those who observe. If you take a
Yeah, if you-
Patrick selfie and tag me, you'll get a gold star. For anyone listening.
And if anyone does that for all 4 companies, something cool will come your way. I don't know
Yeah.
what.
Don't
Or actually, let's
commit
make it 5.
Overwatch to anything.
The
No, I'm
Yeti
not
needs to
kidding,
be involved.
Ashley. Absolutely not.
I'm
Overwatch.
committing
Yeah,
Jordan,
it-
not
Basically,
Ashley.
does not come on
Exactly.
camera.
You can get a bingo.
Suddenly, I get disconnected.
And
Yeah.
if you get it all at the GreyNoise booth, then maybe you'll get extra kudos.
Mhm.
Yeah, CB will give you a fist bump.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. Remember, do not let your guard down or your credentials out. Patch early, patch often, or maybe not at all, according to Image, I guess. And if you find a USB in the wild, treat it like a suspicious package, not a free upgrade. Until next time, may your passwords be strong, your logs be long, and your weather always partly encrypted. Stay safe out there, everybody. Catch you next time.